My name is Arush De Silva. On behalf of the Samadhi Buddhist Foundation, I'd like to welcome everyone to this month's Clarity of Mind through Mindfulness session. So this month's topic will be about the application of SMART in mindfulness development. So SMART is an acronym that is commonly paired in SMART goals, which stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. I'd like to now invite our teacher, Venerable Chandarathana Thero, to give us an insight into this new topic. Thero Sarnay Bante.
Yeah, Thero Sarnay, hope you can hear me.
Avigiri Bante.
Okay, fine. So we are going to start this mindfulness session. So basically, today I am going to cover this topic. This is an interesting point where actually the West has come up with SMART. So SMART is something used in particularly in the motivation side. So personal motivation is done through SMART. So SMART represent certain specific words as Arosh give a brief introduction. S is for specific, to be specific about one's goal and clear and well defined. And so that is something we can look into. So actually I'm going to look into each and every aspect of this SMART. So letter S represent specific, and then M represent measurable, so tracking the progress, and it is measurable, it is verifiable, so that attribute is explained as the measurable. And then attainable, so goals are realistic and those are attainable. Achievable, so that attribute is discussed in the letter A. Then relevant, so the common issue we face is sometimes we have too many goals, and sometimes we are going away from our goal, and that is something that we need to be careful. So therefore, what are we involved with, so what are we are sort of engaged with, have to be relevant. And then time bound, so we don't have unlimited time, so we have to have some sort of time bound, so that is also attributed as the last letter called T or time bound. So how to apply this SMART or this what we call the motivational aspects, motivational concepts in the mindfulness development. Now the term specific. So when we consider typical mundane activities, there also we have to be specific. That is where this SMART is designed for. Now we are trying to see the possibility of using it in the mindfulness development as well. Now in the mindfulness development also, there is a kind of a specific term we can actually apply. Now say for example, when you are paying attention to breathing, so now you are selecting that particular object. There are so many other objects, but among those many other objects, so you are particularly selecting, say, breathing. So breathing becomes your primary object, so you are so specific on that. And suppose that you are selecting rising and falling of the abdomen, so that is your specific object or the primary object, and you are constantly trying to be attentive about the rising and falling of the abdomen. Suppose when you are dealing with the walking meditation, so at that time you are not trying to get distracted, rather you are trying to be more specific of what you are feeling at your foot. And again, while you are going even deeper, now say when your left foot is touching the ground, so you are more specific about what is happening there, so more oriented, more aimed, your attention is more aimed at your left leg. And even when you are going further, suppose even subtle details like whether you are touching the knee, sorry, whether we are touching the toes, whether we are touching the other parts of the sole, so likewise we have to be more specific. So that is actually required because typically our mind is not that some sort of concentrated, rather our attention is fairly scattered. So in order to concentrate our mind, we require this kind of approach where we can properly pay our attention to this specific information what we are looking for, and that is something that we have to be careful, because our mind get distracted to various other things, but we have to be somewhat oriented in our own kind of situation, and there we have to be more specific. So other people may be targeting certain other things, but now we are more specific about our selected object. Say you are practicing anapanasati, mindfulness on breathing, so you have to be more specific on that. If another person practicing rising and falling, so he has to be more specific on that. So likewise, the situation has to handle properly. So therefore our target, our goal has to be well defined. And if we move forward, then say measurable. Now, if you consider typical mindfulness practice, so sometimes we can't even imagine how we can measure mindfulness, but certainly we can do it to a certain extent. Say, for example, today you are able to keep your attention to, say, 5 steps in walking meditation. Suppose maybe on tomorrow you are able to achieve 6 steps. That indicates certain amount of improvement in your mindfulness practice, and maybe day after tomorrow you can do it 7 steps. So likewise, there's a gradual improvement in our practice. So even if you consider anapanasati, mindfulness on breathing, suppose you are able to maintain your attention only on 10 breaths today, but maybe after a week, probably you can constantly pay attention to 15 breaths. So that indicates certain amount of improvement in your side. So that is something measurable. And again, you feel that there's a presence of mindfulness. Previously there was no much attention about mindfulness, and we are unmindful most of the time, and we are somewhat ignorant in a way, and we are daydreaming, fantasizing. So that kind of situation was there in our mind, but now you may understand the presence of mindfulness. So that mindfulness is, therefore we feel it. Previously there was no mindfulness, but now there is a certain quality called mindfulness now present in our mind. That is something we feel, that is something that we can actually really keep an eye whether the mindfulness is present or whether it is absent. So slowly as we are improving, and probably we can see, okay, if we are paying more attention to breathing, okay, now I can pay attention continuously for 20 breaths, say 30 breaths, 50 breaths. So likewise, it is in a way, to a certain extent, it is measurable. And it is not kind of a vague incident, but rather we can actually feel the progress. And further, suppose you are in the walking meditation, there also you can feel, okay, now I can go from this point to the end point without breaking mindfulness. So it is measurable in a way. And even at the turning point, I can properly handle, so without breaking the mindfulness. Again, the returning path, again I can be mindful. So likewise, so it is tangible in a way, and it is measurable. So you get a kind of a feeling, okay, now mindfulness is improving. Previously there was no such ability, but now the presence of mindfulness that you feel. And it is important to understand it, because that actually motivates us. So when we understand, okay, it is measurable, it is something that I can really feel, and then I understand, okay, because of my continuous attention or because of my continuous effort, that's a significant growth happen in the mindfulness side. So it is measurable, and so that really motivates us, because if you can't really feel any progress, then it is very difficult to motivate ourselves. But at least when you understand, okay, previously I could only walk 5 steps, but now I can feel 10 steps, I can walk 10 steps, that indicates certain amount of a growth, and then you can keep on practicing. Actually these have to be attainable, so those have to be realistic. So otherwise we are going away from our goal, because sometimes we are keeping very high expectations, immediately wanted to become an arahant, wanted to become a sotapanna. So likewise, very high goals sometimes people keep. So that is also kind of a hindrance in our practice. So our goal has to be an attainable, achievable goal. Now, say for example, today if you are able to be mindful about 10 steps, so it is quite reasonable to set a goal. Okay, tomorrow I am trying to improve it to 11 steps or 12 steps. So it is attainable and it is realistic, and you feel that I can do it. Now, if you put a kind of a goal, okay, on tomorrow I am becoming a stream winner, a sotapanna, so it is almost impossible because the necessary qualities, necessary skills are not yet developed. So, therefore, when we are keeping these smart or these special, uh, say, techniques in our say path, so if you are trying to apply this smart application or smart goals, uh, motivation to our path, to our development of mindfulness, so that is also something that we can understand is possible to use and attainable. And you can feel, okay, today I am 12 steps, okay, tomorrow I can make it 15 steps. So you are keeping a little target, you are keeping a little progress as a kind of a goal in your mind. Say while in the sitting, they are also suppose you are able to keep attention on 20 breaths. Okay, tomorrow I am trying to make it say 25 breaths or 22 breaths. So likewise, a reasonable target you can keep, and it is an attainable one, it is a doable one. And many people sometimes setting impossible goals, so then ultimately they get frustrated and ultimately they give up the practice. So that is where we put too much attention, or we put unattainable or unreasonable goals very far away, so then it is almost unreasonable and we get discouraged. But if you know, I am practicing daily, so I am continuing my practice. So today I am just managing it with 10 steps. Okay, let me try to make it 11 steps. It's very reasonable kind of a goal. Now, if we go to the other side, it is relevant. Now, there are many things that we engage with in our daily activities. Say you are talking with others, and you are watching movies, and maybe you are going to various other activities, parties, etc., etc. Now, are they really relevant to our goal? So this is something that we need to little careful, because mindfulness practice also needs kind of a careful attention how we are managing in our other activities. Now, it is not just you coming and sitting cross-legged and just develop mindfulness, and rest of the time you trying to be just allowing the mind to wander or allowing yourself to wander or behave as you like. So that doesn't really help. So you need to recognize what are the sort of possible outcomes or possible repercussions or consequences if I am managing myself in a wrong manner. Say you are going to various parties and you are getting late, and ultimately you end up with kind of a frustration, and you can even associate wrong people. So that also detrimental to your practice. Say you are in a retreat environment. Say today I am talking from Kalalgoda, so we are in a retreat. So if we start talking too much to each other, and then we understand, okay, I am breaking in a way the rules of the retreat. And on the other hand, I am breaking the silence, and again it is detrimental to my own practice. So therefore, what is relevant is necessary to understand. Again, what is irrelevant is also necessary to understand. So most of the time, if we are able to understand what is irrelevant, what is not suitable, and what is harmful to our practice, then actually at least we can try to avoid that. So especially the other people who are not really into our practice or not really motivated in practice, and they sometimes have different goals in their mind which are not really tallying with our practice. So then actually we have to be careful when we are dealing with them. On the other hand, when we engage with our own other activities, maybe you are going to work, and while engaged in your work, say at your office, so how are we going to manage it without much harming our practice? Because the practitioner has a kind of a attention in his mind even when he engage with other activities. Now he know that I am doing something else. He know very well now I am at office, but still he know in the evening I am going to practice. So he has a kind of a reminder in his mind. Okay, I am a practitioner. I am a yoga avachara. So I am someone who is trying to develop mindfulness. So if I am behaving like this, probably it might be detrimental. It might be harmful to my practice. So he is little careful. Therefore, how he is managing his daily activities. And the other one is time bound. So the last one. So time bound in the sense now we also don't have very long time. Now say for example, nowadays people only have about 70, 80 years as their lifespan, and even during that time half of it maybe we are spending sleeping. So that indicates around only, say if one is living 70 years, then we have only 35 years. And even from that we are spending fair amount of time in learning as a child, and then dealing with other activities like spending time in the office. So in that case, so we have very limited time for our own practice, and sometimes finding that time is also very difficult because we have a lot of other obligations, a lot of duties, and we have to find our revenues, our salaries and all these things. And so probably you have to look after your children, probably you have to look after your parents. So many responsibilities are there, obligations are there. So while having all these things, are we able to practice? So it's kind of a challenging situation. So how among all these other things to motivate ourselves in the given limited time to do proper practice? So that is why people are sometimes finding time to attend to a retreat, so that they are able to be away from typical mundane activities. At least they have some uh, kaya viveka, what means that they are secluded from the other people. So they have some time to look into their own self, because sometimes we are engaged with a lot of other things and dealing with others and not caring about ourselves. So it is necessary to care about ourselves, care about our own mind. So that requires certain amount of time in our schedule. Say for example, in the morning once you get up, are we able to spend some time for ourselves, just reflecting what has happened? Is my mind agitated, or is my mind in a kind of a calm situation? Are there any sort of grudges I am holding? Are there any sort of misunderstandings I am holding? Or is my mind filled with loving kindness? Or is my mind more with clarity? So likewise, I can do kind of a reflection in the morning. And suppose now you are going to the walking path and you do a little bit of walking, and is it improving your clarity of mind? Because as you progress, so the clarity of mind become prominent, and you have to actually feel it, and it is an improvement. So it is, as we discussed earlier, it is measurable. So you feel this kind of an improvement, and within a certain period of time. Say you are joining to a retreat, first day assume that it is not that successful, there are a lot of aches, pains, etc. But next day, second day, third day, fourth day, as we progress, so we have kind of something significant improvement, a measurable improvement as the time goes or as the time pass. Now therefore we can understand, okay, these things are also achievable and within a given period of time. So on the other hand, actually sometimes people give a very strict time frame. Okay, within 1 year I have to become a stream winner. Within a 1 year I have to become an arahant. So that is in a way not realistic. So when we are sort of setting up our goals, so as we discussed earlier, so it has to be realistic and achievable, and the time bound that we are giving has to be again very realistic. And on the other hand, sometimes we give certain time bounds and we are giving certain realistic goals, but ultimately sometimes we fail due to various reasons, because we don't know or we never know what are the other obstacles available. We couldn't foresight about it. So on such situation we should be a little flexible, rather than strictly adhering to a particular schedule. If something goes wrong, are we able to be compassionate to ourselves, to adjust ourselves, to adjust our schedule, to adjust our time bounds? So the smart in this case, even though it is supplying or it is giving kind of a framework for us to work, it doesn't mean that we have to completely rigid on that. So it is helping us to motivate ourselves and to continue our practice. But on the other hand, we have to have some sort of an attitude. When something goes wrong, come back or reflect back and adjust where it has gone wrong. So that kind of a flexibility, that kind of a adjustability is also necessary. So we have to tolerate the situation. So as much as possible, things are going well and we are trying to achieve the goal. But on the other hand, there's a little flexibility in ourselves. So if something goes wrong, okay, I can adjust always. I can adjust myself. I can adjust the timetable. I can adjust the schedule. Because sometimes as we move forward, you may understand it is not necessary to keep certain time bounds. So this smart actually useful, especially in the early stages in our practice. But as you are moving forward, you get certain feeling about the practice. So now you become more conversant about the practice. You know the presence of mindfulness. You know the presence of concentration. And assume now you are practicing wisdom, vipassana. And as you are practicing vipassana, and more you understand about your mind and how it is behaving, what are its traits available, and what are the areas that you need to pay more attention. So, likewise, once you have more understanding about your mind, so then you may understand okay, it's a kind of a flowing with the situation rather than really keeping very strict timelines or very strict goals. Let me flow with the situation. So that is not being kind of lethargic or just being defeated. Rather, with maturity you understand okay, now I have to adjust myself. Now rather than doing something, let happen, let me adjust, let me accept the situation, because that is a more different kind of an approach, where Buddha mentioned that at the beginning this kind of motivation, this kind of driving is necessary, but as we move forward, there's a significant change happen in one's own practice. Even the attitude may change, even your goal may change, even the way you practice may change, and how you approach also may change. So therefore such flexibility also has to be involved when we are dealing with mindfulness practice. So therefore, these are interesting points that I found how we can incorporate smart in our mindfulness practice. And there's another interesting point I found from the web. It's called stress management and resilience training. That is also called smart. So you can see people are coming up with different terminologies. Now here actually they are trying to use these terms just to signify or just to represent certain other things. So this is not actually relevant to the smart that we discussed today. So this is a different smart, where they are using mindfulness practice just to improve their stress or just to manage their stress and to improve resilience. So this is actually being practiced in say in United States, in different say universities and other medical institutes. So they are trying to use mindfulness for stress management, and they are trying to use mindfulness to improve resilience. So combined together they call it smart. So that is completely different thing, which I thought of adding as the last point. So with that, I like to conclude today's presentation, or today's kind of a like information to share with you. Now I like to invite you to participate in the mindfulness practice. Now let's do a little bit of mindful sitting, where you sit in a comfortable position. Say for about 15 minutes, we are trying to develop mindfulness as a guided sitting. You can keep your head straight, Neck also straight, shoulders in a relaxed position, hands may be resting on your lap or maybe on on a table, and keeping our back straight and relax ourselves. Now we can take a deep breath, hold it for a while, and then release. We can spend few minutes listening to various sounds available in the background, in the surrounding. Just listen. So we have no preferences, and we are not hating any sound. Rather, we can simply accept, we can simply listen and simply recognize it as a sound. Sometimes we like certain sounds and sometimes we dislike certain sounds. But now we are trying to open to any sound and we simply listen. And our attention is very much a pervaded, a spreaded kind of attention. So we don't know from which direction the sound happens. Therefore, we have open awareness. So any sound happen from any direction, we are ready to listen. So there may be sounds from vehicles, sounds from animals, various others making little sounds, birds chirping. Different sounds are there. So we simply acknowledge, we simply listen and not start to think about them. Rather, we simply listen and come back to ourselves, quite relaxing and accepting, receiving. We can take a deep breath, hold it for a second, and then release. Again, we can take a deep breath, hold it for a while, and then release. If your mind wanders towards the past, just accept it. No need to hate ourselves. But once you know that, slowly bring it back to yourself, back to the body. If your mind wanders towards the future, maybe planning, daydreaming, fantasizing, once you recognize it, slowly take it back to the body. So there are various things we feel in our body. Now you can check what I am mentioning, whether you can really feel. Your head straight, eyes are gently closed, lips gently touching, jaws are not tightly coupled, they are relaxed, and facial tissues, facial muscles are not tight, they are in a relaxed situation. There is no tension in your face, no wrinkles on your forehead. So we are relaxing, not thinking about any problem, just trying to be with the body, be friend with the body, just accepting the various sensations available in the body. Again, you can take a deep breath, hold it for a while, and then release. Your neck straight, shoulders in a very relaxed position, not holding them purposely. Hands are resting. There is no tightness in your hands. Keeping your back straight but not rigid. And probably you can feel certain pressure or weight at your buttocks. A little bit of a burning sensation. As we sit for a long time, there could be a little burning sensation at your buttocks. Legs are bent and legs muscles are relaxed. And probably certain parts of your soles may be touching the ground. We are comfortably sitting. Take a deep breath, hold it for a while, and then release. Now slowly bring your attention to the breath. Allow breathing to happen naturally and try to be aware of the breathing process with a relaxed mindset. When breathing in happens, be aware of it. When breathing out happens, be aware of it. If your mind still wanders, once you know breathing in happens, you can note it as in. When breathing out happens, you can note it as out. In, out. Keep it very simple, relaxed. Give a little goal to the mind not to miss any breaths. So if your mind get distracted, during that time, there may be certain breaths that you miss. You couldn't recognize. They already happened. But give a little goal, little target to the mind not to miss any breaths. Assign a task. If you are able to establish mindfulness more precisely, then you can recognize various aspects of the breath, whether it is longer, whether it is shorter, from which nostril it is going in, from which nostril it is going out, what is the exact location it is touching, whether it is cooler or whether it is warmer. So these are various aspects, various characteristics of the breath, and now you can try to recognize them. But actually, you need fair amount of mindfulness already developed in order to do that. And more we are skillful about it, then the clear comprehension improves, because now we are trying to clearly know, clearly understand the whole breathing cycle, various aspects of breathing, have a little bit of curiosity to investigate. By investigating the breath, to understand these subtle aspects. Okay, I think we have completed little discussion, and then we conducted the short guided sitting. So if there is anyone who like to share their experiences, so like to mention their something else, so I welcome all of you to participate in the discussion. Anything would you like to share, Arosh?
For the guided in the sitting, I could hear myself. Okay, I think it's good now. So when I was doing my guided sitting, I felt it difficult to close my eyes because I was watching the previous 30 minutes like very focused on the screen, and it feels like that the amount of like light was hitting my eyes and just like felt like my I was like I was feeling like very restless. However, like after about like 10 minutes of like having my eyes shut, then I was like able to like relax and like finally focus on my breath afterwards. Yeah.
Okay, probably. I mean, the screen time sometimes. The I mean, when we are dealing with the computer screen, of course, it has certain strain, and our eyes get stressful. So that is something we have to be a little careful in a way when we are using computers and maybe TVs, etc. So actually, we discussed this point, I think, couple of months ago, how. Our eyes get strained and how our mind gets stressed out because of much using the screen time, and because sometimes we get attracted and we get too much focused onto the screen, and it is developing some amount of stress tension in ourselves. So especially the little bit of eye strain and maybe a little bit of headache can happen, and therefore certain aspects are there. I mean, probably you may already know about these things. Say time to time look a little far object rather than looking at the screen. So this is one thing that typically people mention. And again, change your posture time to time. And on the other hand, coming back to the posture, that is the establishment of mindfulness. Because say you are reading a paper, or you are writing an email, or you are maybe reading a book, an ebook from your computer, using your computer. So all these things, if you spend too much time in doing that, so there's a certain amount of stress and strain being built up. So what we can do is simply stop that for a while, maybe after 10 minutes or something, and just close your eyes and close our eyes, and then come back to ourselves. Just establish mindfulness. Where am I? Am I standing? Am I walking? Am I lying down, or am I sitting? So that is just establishment of mindfulness. And our eyes are closed, my head straight, my legs are like this, what I am feeling is like this. So likewise, we are trying to come back to the body. So kind of awareness or self-awareness, body awareness is improved, and we are going away from the typical vicious cycle of that continuous stressful kind of an activity. So therefore, time to time, establishing mindfulness, come back to senses, come back to ourselves, establishing mindfulness especially with the body, really helps to release the tension, release the stress. So this is a very proven method. So rather than continuously paying attention to the screen, so time to time we have to break that and take an interval, and then come back to the body, establish mindfulness with the body. Actually, that helps to release tension, because body in a way like absorbing whatever the tensions that we have developed. So we are able to relax ourselves, allow things to happen, accept the way it is, and just relax. So a couple of minutes after that, probably we can even pay attention to rising and falling of the abdomen, or simply with the breath. So those are really something that we can really feel. So thinking is not involved. So mind can simply relax, and simply we can be aware. So this awareness is quite different from thinking. Probably you already learned about it, or probably you already understood it. So thinking involves certain intentional thinking, proliferation, and again fantasizing. or remembering or planning. But on the other hand, in the present moment, we simply feel. So we know, we directly feel what is happening. So therefore it relaxes ourselves and again releases whatever the tension already gathered. So, and on the other hand, certain other techniques like say getting up from your seat, spend a little bit of time in the standing position rather than continuously in the sitting position, in the sitting posture, that is also helpful. And sometimes people ask to raise your legs and relax it for a while rather than keeping it on the same position, that is also there. And sometimes they ask to adjust your chair even. I mean, if it is a kind of a straight back chair, probably it may can develop certain amount of strain on your back. But on the other hand, if there's a little curved resting, uh, then probably there may be less strain. So likewise, there are many things people are discussing when we are discussing with this dealing with the computers and the TVs, etc. So that is something that I like to share with you. Anyone else who like to share their experiences or like to contribute? Yeah, Joseph, you can share your experience. Yes.
Yeah. Hello, Bante. Yes, I found I was pretty relaxed, and then I was concentrating on the breath. But I found, as in like my other sittings, after a few minutes of focusing on the breath, I find it. I guess I find it a little stressful to focus on the breath, and so I just don't. I sort of let go of focusing on the breath and just sort of sit. And what I've been finding then is that I get a little sleepy, and I sort of start to sort of lose, I guess, lose attention, and then I find myself sort of waking up in a sense. And then I notice the breath again. The breath is still calm, and I'm still very relaxed. And once again, I kind of let go of paying attention to the breath and just sort of sit calmly and become very relaxed. And then again, kind of a little sleepy. But then when I maybe after like this session, for example, towards the end, when I sort of caught myself sort of waking again, I felt very clear-minded. I felt very, very, very awake. And then the bell rang, and I kind of noticed that also earlier today with my sitting session, a similar kind of thing where I was going through this sort of being very relaxed, a little sleepy, and then waking up, and then feeling quite awake, and then getting up. So maybe maybe a little not sure if I should be just more focused on the breath, or if I should be trying to sort of handle this sort of evenly suspended attention, I guess, and handling the sleepiness and the restlessness that comes along with that. So I just want to share that. Thank you.
So since I know about your practice, actually I can directly comment on it. So basically, as we move forward, we don't need to keep something as a primary object. So for a little moment or for a very limited time, we can keep it just to establish mindfulness. But on the other hand, as we move forward, we are coming to a stage where the mind stays simply aware without an object. So probably you can relate what I am talking here. So as we move forward in Vipassana, so we understand the impermanence, suffering and non-self. So as a result of that, mind starts to let go. And so this letting go is something that we need to promote. And later the mind becomes kind of empty and doesn't hold anything, doesn't grasp anything. So that non-grasping state, now we need to improve. So this non-grasping state, now we need to expand, maximize. So on such situation, we don't need to associate any primary object. But anyway, when I am conducting a typical guided sitting session, I always used to give a little bit of instruction for the beginners so that they are able to establish mindfulness. But when we know that really, okay, this is what really happening, probably we can spend a couple of minutes establishing mindfulness. But once we are able to establish mindfulness, we can simply let go and keep the mind relaxed, keep the mind free from thinking and free from any kind of grasping any kind of an object. So that typically mindfulness involves certain amount of observation with an object, but as we move forward, we are switching to a different mode which has no object, and it is a simply a kind of a natural awareness, kind of effortless mindfulness. So in your case, so you have to switch to that effortless mindfulness, just relax awareness without spending much time with the breath. So because if we spend too much time with breath or any other object, it creates certain amount of tension, and that is not necessary and not required, and it is not even suitable, because what we require is a more relaxed, more expanded kind of mindfulness awareness, more natural awareness, and that is something that we need to promote.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I think we have come to the end of the session. Shalika, do you have anything to share?
Arush, can you please share the information about our next session?
Oh, yeah. So our next session will be on Friday, March 25th at 9 p.m. EST, which is Saturday, March 26th, 6:30 a.m. Sri Lankan time. And you have to note the change in time due to daylight savings time on March 13th in the US. So I guess there's nothing else. So have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you all in a month. Thank you, Bhante.
We'll see you on next month, and thank you very much for your participation. Everyone, Sunlight.